I think what was tough was um, not being able to talk to anyone because I don't think anyone understood what I was experiencing.
Gotta remember, hold on to that fundamental quality of faith. Have faith that on the other side of your pain is something good.
Some people think depression is trivial and not a genuine health condition. They're wrong. It is a real illness with real symptoms. Depression is not a sign of weakness or something you can snap out of by pulling yourself together. Depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. Also called major depressive disorder or clinical depression, it affects how you feel, think and behave and can lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems. You may have trouble doing normal day-to-day activities, and sometimes you may feel as if life isn't worth living. Most people go through periods of feeling down, but when you're depressed you feel persistently sad for weeks or months, rather than just a few days. How to tell if you have depression. Depression symptoms can vary from mild to severe and can include feeling sad or having a depressed mood, loss of energy or increased fatigue, difficulty thinking, concentrating or making decisions, loss of interest or pleasure in activities once enjoyed, having no appetite or sex drive, trouble sleeping or sleeping too much, feeling worthless or guilty, thoughts of death or suicide. Symptoms must last at least 2 weeks and must represent a change in your previous level of functioning for a diagnosis of depression. Suicidal doesn't always look suicidal. One of the most common suicide warning signs that people always missed is sudden calmness and change of behavior. The person suddenly becomes calm after a period of depression or moodiness. They may seem very happy and even attend parties with friends or family that makes them look like they got over their depression. Usually, the tragedy happens after that less obvious suicide warning sign. What causes depression? People with a family history of depression are more likely to experience it themselves. But you can also become depressed for no obvious reason. Grief and depression can coexist. For some people, the death of a loved one, a severe illness, losing a job or being a victim of a physical assault or a major disaster can lead to depression. When grief and depression co-occur, the grief is more severe and lasts longer than grief without depression. Distinguishing between grief and depression is important and can assist people in getting the help, support, or treatment they need. Here are some real stories of depression.
The first time I realized that Dre was depressed was his sophomore year of high school, and it was because he talked to me about it, and he told me he was even feeling suicidal. I asked him if he had a plan for how he would go about doing that, and the answer was yes. So his dad and I got him help right away. We got him into some counseling, and it seemed that after a few months, it passed. He got his driver's license shortly after that. He was headed to prom, he got a job, everything seemed fine over the next few years. When I woke up that morning, I had a text message from him that said, "Hey, I love you." I texted him and said, "You are my boy, I love you too," with a happy face. And I don't know if he ever got that text message or not. In the hours and days after Dre's death, I didn't really know what to do with myself. I didn't think anybody could live with that level of pain. Dre was supposed to be starting college the next week, and instead we were planning his funeral. We saw signs of my son's depression in hindsight, and that's really difficult. The anger and the frustration and the irritability that was blown out of proportion to different circumstances. We didn't realize that that is a sign of depression. One of the things that's been most difficult for me through this is considering how my son must have been feeling through those last few months of his life. It's going to take all of us being comfortable talking about this and asking one another questions before we're going to make a difference.
So if I'd say I'm not feeling, and I didn't know myself initially how to describe it. I've just, all of these terms of, I knew what I was feeling, but I don't think I was able to communicate entirely what I was feeling. Like I knew I had this pittish feeling in my stomach. I knew that I'd be scared to wake up. I didn't want to wake up. I wanted to always, uh, I found sleep. I found comfort in sleep because I felt like that was my escape. Um, and like waking up was a struggle. I didn't enjoy, and in fact I think that's something I'm still scared of. I don't like the sound of an alarm. um so yeah, I think waking up was tough because I didn't want to face a day. So I think there was always that fear of wondering where I'm going to be. What if I have that feeling of low? What if I need to break down? And not knowing where to sort of um, have that moment to myself. And I was also, I think, conscious of people seeing it on my face. So um, mm, it was a lot of effort, I think, I think, to show like everything was okay, because it was not. And I think to keep smiling or to keep um, giving energy to people around me, to kind of overcompensate, to show that everything was okay or that I was feeling okay, I think was extremely exhausting. Before, of course, it before it happened, in the time that I was suffering or struggling, I wish that I had come across that one person who said, I think I know what it is. And it probably would have just made the whole process much, much easier.
Somewhere along the line, I noticed that there was just a heaviness that I felt all the time, and kind of like a cloud that just followed me. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but I just kind of felt this underlying sadness all the time. It became something I just didn't understand. And it wasn't even until I think I met with a therapist that I knew I had depression. My kind of thought process was like, I have a good life. Like, I don't have tons to be sad about. Why am I sad all the time? Why do I not want to do things with my friends? Why do I just feel this bad all the time? Luckily, I also feel like it's so much better now than it was when I was in high school. Like, mental health is more of a conversation, but I felt like I was literally the only person in the world that understood how I was feeling. And I felt like there was something wrong with me. I think for that reason, I didn't open up to really anybody about it. And I think to all of my friends, I seemed perfectly fine, which looking back, I'm sure there were tons of signs that I wasn't. But for a couple years, I just kind of carried the burden of depression alone. And looking back, that was kind of on me, because I had amazing friends who I'm sure if I had just opened up to about it, they would have been super supportive and they would have been really nice and helpful about it. But I was really worried about burdening other people and trying to explain what was going on, and them thinking that I was crazy. And there was just so much that I didn't know about depression and about how it doesn't make you any of those things, that it would have been really nice to know. Even now, since I've been doing social media for a while, it's not something that I talk about all the time, but it's something I'm definitely more open about on Instagram stories and stuff like that, about depression and anxiety and the fact that I deal with it. Because it's not something that you should be embarrassed by. It's mental health, and like anything else, it's important to be open about it and not be ashamed of it, and to utilize as much support as you can to deal with it. And that's something that I've learned in the past few years. Because I didn't want to burden anybody or make any of my friends think I was crazy or just get into the conversation because it would be awkward, I didn't really reach out to anybody. And that definitely made it a lot harder than it had to be. I even have people I've talked to on social media that follow me who say they don't feel like they can talk to anybody about it because they feel the same way. And I promise you it's not true. You won't be burdening anybody if you talk to them about it. It's important to have these awkward conversations because you need support in anything in life. Depression and anxiety and any mental health issues aren't something you should have to carry alone. If I had told my high school self that 10 years down the road I would have a much...
I found that with depression, one of the most important things you could realize is that you're not alone. You're not the first to go through it. You're not going to be the last to go through it. And oftentimes it happens. You feel like you're alone and you feel like it's only you and you're in your bubble. And I wish I had someone at that time who could just pull me aside and, hey, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So I wish I knew that. Just got to remember. Hold on to that fundamental quality of faith. Have faith that on the other side of your pain is something good. After about a month and a half of staying in that little apartment and cleaning, I got a phone call from the head coach of the team who cut me, the head coach of the Calgary Stampeders. He called me and he said, hey, I know we cut you, but I'd like you to come back. I said, okay, I appreciate that, coach. Thank you very much. I'll think about it. And he said, okay, great. I hung up the phone and my dad said, you're going to do it, right? I said, no, I don't think so. I think I'm done with that. And he goes, what? I said, my gut tells me I'm done. He said, what are you going to do? I took a deep breath. I said, I'd like to get into the business. He said, what business? I said, the wrestling business. He said, you are throwing it all away. It is the worst mistake you will ever make. He said, you're ruining your career. I said, maybe I'll be no good. But I feel like in my heart I have to do this. And I either need you to train me or need you to not train me. My dad rose to the occasion. He said, I'll train you. And it wound up being one of the greatest chapters in my life.
Depression is among the most treatable of mental disorders. Psychological and pharmacological treatments exist for depression. Between 80% and 90% of people with depression eventually respond well to treatment. Almost all patients gain some relief from their symptoms. If you feel depressed, make an appointment to see your doctor or mental health professional as soon as you can. If you're reluctant to seek treatment, talk to a friend or a loved one, any healthcare professional, a faith leader, or someone else you trust.